7 ideals for 7 gods.
The gods goad us on with the promise of their 7 treasures. Rewards for the worthy, the doorway to divinity.
As you know, visions are external magical foci that only a small minority of people possess. Every wielder of a vision is one who can attain godhood and ascend to Celestia. We call such people allogenes. Each Archon has an internal magical focus that resonates directly with Celestia itself, known as a gnosis.
Strife is engraved upon every god and every gnosis brought forth into this world.
The strife engraved upon a gnosis. You're talking about the Archon War.
It was about 2,600 years ago, before the world had come under the rule of the 7. At that time, Old Mondstadt was ruled by a tyrant who sealed off the city's perimeter with a ferocious hurricane. The Tyrant of the Winds who once ruled from that tower was Decarabian, god of storms. Back then, I was but a wisp among the 1,000 winds. I wasn't a god of anything. I took the form of a friend.
So the boy turned, extending his hand. Let us cast down the tyrant and his walls from this land. The young boy raised then the flag of revolt, and I threw myself into freedom's tumult. Victorious were we who fought to be free. Gods fell, winds whipped, nations shook violently. In the smoke, a despot met his doom. And we watched as his great tower fell none too soon.
Guyan Stone Forest is actually the perfect place to be, if you wish to learn about the gods or the history of the Archon War. Legend has it that Rex Lapis threw spears made of large rock into the sea here, piercing and crushing the overlord of the vortex. What we see now is just the part of them that remains. The stone spears hurled by Rex Lapis all those years ago were much greater, both in number and in size.
Well, a god able to fight one so powerful as Rex Lapis was certainly very strong in its own right.
That is Osial's divine power. I am very familiar with it.
So the Archon War was fought 2,000 years ago against enemies like that thing?
The waters ravaged the Gwali assembly. The journey was plagued by a terrible storm.
War broke out between the gods, and soon engulfed the Gwali plains.
Disaster and plague arose once more. The Stove God would appear no longer, for he placed all of his power into the land itself to quell the calamities.
Guizhong was overpowered by the enemy, and fell in battle. When Streetwood Rambler and I arrived at the scene at long last, all that remained among the ruins was her lifeless body.
We're not that far away from Orobashi's remains. Orobashi was the one who brought our ancestors from Enkanomiya up to the surface. That's the origin of the Watatsumi Island you know today. Our ancestors regarded it as a guardian deity. But during the Archon War, Orobashi invaded Yashiori Island. The Raiden Shogun came out in person and slew Orobashi with the Muso no Hitotachi. That same slash also formed what later became known as Musojin Gorge. The Archon War was brutal, and Yashiori Island was completely destroyed during that battle. They say the Shogun lost something very dear to her along the way, too.
Teyvat's current peace was not easily won. I didn't personally participate in the Archon War. All those losses were meaningless, driven by the demands of the laws.
I am deeply disappointed that I was never allowed the fortuity to personally participate in the Archon War.
That throne in the sky is not reserved for you. The war has already begun. It is just a continuation of past battles. See for yourself.